Despite continuing U.S. concerns about Iran, some subsidiaries of big U.S. companies continue doing business there. You might not have known that. CNN financial correspondent Huntington has details.
States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil.
Iran is in the president's axis of evil because it is widely considered to be the top state sponsor of terrorism in the world.
Iran created Hezbollah, which is arguably the world's most dangerous terrorist organization. Al-Qaeda leaders went from Afghanistan to Iran. When we attacked Afghanistan, Iran's the mother of all terrorism.
That is why the United States has imposed trade sanctions against Iran since 1980. Except for importing carpets, caviar, dried fruits, or nuts, it is illegal for any U.S. citizen or company to do business in Iran. Yet dozens of U.S. corporations have legal operations there. This is Halliburton's office in Tehran. The company spokeswoman tells CNN the subsidiary called Halliburton Products and Services helps build drilling rigs in Iran's southern oil fields. But Halliburton isn't alone. According to one analyst, there are more than 30 U.S. corporations doing business in Iran through foreign subsidiaries or related companies.
The business of subsidiaries of U.S. firms being able to maneuver around the U.S. sanctions, even though they're legal, and I think that that's starting to rub people the wrong way.
Halliburton's main competitors in the oil field business, Baker Hughes, Smith International, and Schlumberger, have foreign operations in Iran as well. There's a Swiss-owned Caterpillar dealership in Tehran, and General Electric's Canadian unit is in Iran working on a huge hydroelectric project. All of these companies tell CNN they are in full compliance with U.S. trade laws. Michael Ledeen has studied terrorism in Iran for more than 20 years, and he believes companies doing business there, particularly those working in Iran's oil industry, indirectly help fund terrorism.
The oil company is a wholly owned subsidiary of the government. The government's the primary sponsor of terrorism. Plus, they have separate organizations that are used to funnel oil profits and other profits into the terror network.
But according to the sanctions, as long as a U.S. company does not own or manage its foreign subsidiary in Iran, it's all perfectly legal. In Halliburton's case, its subsidiary in Iran is registered in the Cayman Islands and headquartered in Dubai, with no Americans on staff.
If the activities were carried out completely independently of the U.S. operations as part of an ongoing business practices of the foreign subsidiary, that would be all right. If they set that company up offshore with the express purpose of avoiding their obligations under U.S. law, that could be illegal.
Enforcing U.S. trade sanctions is up to the Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Asset Control, or OFAC, and the rules on Iran are posted clearly on OFAC's website. OFAC Director Richard Newcomb, who declined to talk on camera, tells CNN that his staff is ready to crack down on any U.S. citizen or company that violates the sanctions. But penalties for violating the Iran sanctions tend to be modest. Halliburton paid just $15,000 in 1997 to settle a Commerce Department claim that it was improperly shipping oil field equipment to Iran. At the time, Vice President Dick Cheney had just come on as CEO at Halliburton, and in that role, he was an outspoken critic of U.S. sanctions against Iran. When CNN asked this week about the Bush administration's policy on U.S. corporate interests in Iran, the Vice President's office had no comment and directed us back to OFAC. But pressure on U.S. companies with ties to Iran is building from institutional shareholders. Pennsylvania now requires its state pension funds to monitor investments for exposure to sponsors of terrorism. And New York City Comptroller William Thompson, who oversees the pension funds for New York City's police force and firefighters, has forced Halliburton and ConocoPhillips to review their business dealings in Iran and Syria.
Those companies, those United States-based companies, have to be really concerned. And if I were in their shoes, I'd take a fast look at the work that I'm doing in these nations. And in the end, I mean, most of them will make the claim it is not a large piece of their business. Well, since it isn't, get out, and get out now.
But Thompson failed with General Electric. GE's board convinced shareholders that a review of its business in Iran would be unnecessary because, quote, we are compliant with U.S. law and regulations which recognize that foreign subsidiaries of U.S. companies can and will do business in Iran. For decades, U.S. economic interests in Iran have been at odds with U.S. foreign policy there, particularly when oil has been involved. For now, U.S. corporations have all the legal insulation they need to carry on doing business as usual. And the Bush administration, even at a time of heightened terror alerts, shows no sign of trying to change that. Chris Huntington, CNN, New York.